Thank you to our judges, Aaron Ollie from the Government of Saskatchewan, Betty Hopper from the Certified Management Accountants of Saskatchewan, Bob Lane from Solvera Solutions, Paul Marr from the EMCO, Trina Bruce from the Richard Ivey School of Business, and Jordan Jackowski from Clashport. Take matters will have a maximum of 20 minutes to present. Immediately following the presentation, judges will have a total of 5 minutes for questions. I will show time cards at various intervals to indicate the remaining time. I will stop any speaker who exceeds the maximum time limit. No questions, comments, cell phones, or picture taking will be permitted from the audience. The audience will only be permitted to applaud following the question and answer period. The audience is banned from any materials that bears an involved name or symbol of the Canadian University. And we ask that the audience exit the room immediately following the question and answer period. Competitors may begin with one ring.
I am Tyler, nice to meet you. 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 Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. A company cannot be successful without the people who run the business at every level within the organization. It is now time for Jetstream Helicopters to ensure the right people are being recruited and attracted, as well as being retained for the long term within the organization. This is going to ensure that your company can grow well into the future, to ensure maximizing profits, while ensuring going beyond profits. Good morning, Mr. Mike Wilkinson. Today my colleagues, Taryn, Amy, and myself, Tyler, are very excited to show you how we're going to solve your problem today with our recommendation and implementation. So let's get right into it. First off, with the problem, Jetstream Helicopters needs to attract and retain qualified employees to sustain their growth objectives well into the future. This is an urgent problem, as you do have 4 months to make sure that you can have those vacancies filled as people have just left your company. Now, this problem does go as far as recruiting and retaining. You not only want the proper qualified people, but being able to keep them in your company is key. So now I'm going to pass it off to Taryn, who's going to take you through the analysis and issues.
Okay, so we have identified 3 primary issues for you today. The first of which are your hiring standards. So you are looking to hire the most qualified employees that you can, and you've set your limits at 3,000 hours in terms of flight times. And in addition, you're looking for mountain flying experience. It's been expressed that it's been a little bit difficult to meet that 3,000 hour quota, and also ensure that your pilots have the proper amount of mountain flying experience within your organization. And this really is associated with safety. So internally, for the safety of your employees, that they can operate the machinery appropriately, and externally for your customers and the people who you are flying around, ensuring that they are safe and can get to destination accordingly. The second issue we've identified for you today is attraction. So we really want to make sure that you have a strong recruitment statement moving forward. We think with the branding that you're putting forward right now, it's a little bit of a job description and a lot of qualifications. You could really be selling your company and how your emphasis is on work-life balance, safety, and everything like that, and what makes you stand apart from other companies that are also flying and trying to recruit pilots. And again, it's all about becoming an employer of choice. Selling yourself, you have great compensation and benefits, so we just want to make sure that your qualifications and your employers are wanting to come work with you in the same manner. And then the last aspect, work-life balance. So as I said, it was made very clear to us that this is really important to your company. You want to make sure that your employees have strong relationships with them now in the future. So you want to make sure that you're accommodating the difficult working conditions they have with the schedules and the volatility of things that come with that. And also just the mission drift. Again, with your employees being away from their families for long periods of time, extended periods, it really doesn't allow for that proper work-life balance and being able to distinguish the two. So we'd like to see that corrected moving forward. On to the secondary issue you identified is your workforce status. So a lot of your information in terms of why your employees are leaving and why they're not happy is rather informal at the time. We'd like to see that more formalized. We'll get into that kind of into our implementation. But just so you know where your employees are at, and it's not an informal conversation, it's more face-to-face and documented. And engaging your employees, are they happy? We've been notified they're happy with the compensation and benefits, but you still have some employees leaving, so we'd like to target exactly why that is so we can address that moving forward. And then on to our analysis. So within this industry, as you know, it's a tight labor market. There's increased competition, especially for pilots, and this is going to be critical for you moving forward so that you can honor your contracts and make sure your customers are getting bidded what you promised from them. With regards to customers, so meeting your contract needs is the most important thing, and that's why we're here, so we can fill your recruitment vacancies and make sure that you are honoring those commitments that you've made to your customers. And again, beyond profits, your employees are entrusting their customers with the lives of others. They're traveling with them on helicopters and planes, so we want to make sure that they're always safe and the high standards are in place. And then your organization, as I said, we're very happy with the compensation package you're offering. There has been no expressed concerns from your employees regarding that. And you're really safety oriented. Within every part of your value, there's something about safety, and this is great. This is so important for your organization, and we definitely want to maintain this moving forward. And one point we'd just like to make with regards to turnover. So it is about $200,000 per employee, and what we did is we took 2 to 3 times the average salary that you provided to us. And we just want to point that out because this is a quite substantial number. So when you're losing employees and you're losing them to their other businesses that they have on the side, you're losing money in the process, and you're also losing that knowledge in the process. So we want to make sure to reduce as much as possible so that you can save that money and put it towards something different. So now I'm going to pass it back to Tyler, who's going to talk about our critical success factors and alternatives.
Thank you, Taryn. So through our analysis, we've come up with 3 main critical success factors that is driving our decision-making moving forward. So the first one is safety. As we alluded to, your company is based on safety. Going through the values, there is safety in every sentence. This is important moving forward, no matter what we do, that safety is ensured for your employees and your customers. Second is having a qualified workforce. As getting pilots is the talent pool is smaller. We need to ensure that we can get the qualified workforce and retain them as well. And last is long-term retention, as I just stated, making sure that we retain them. So next, moving forward into our alternatives, there's 2 decisions that we have to make. First, on the recruitment side, and second, what we're going to do on the retention side. So first, getting into recruitment, the first alternative is to increase the hiring standards, and which would mean increasing people that you would hire that would have more than 3,000 flight hours. As was identified, this is still, the flight hours is low, but we are going to reject this because even though it does ensure safety, this is going to be uncertain that you can get those qualified workers into the future, and it's not sustainable. You might be able to get someone now, but within 2 years you might not be able to. And that is why we want to go with alternative 2 for our recommendation, as that is to accommodate and to train to meet existing standards. So this also maintains safety standards, because even though if we do hire someone, as we'll get into our implementation, who has a little less than 3,000 hours, we will train them to get those hours before they go out on their own. This is sustainable to ensure that we do have the qualified staff as we get to train them. You get to train them for your company. Also, it's a flexibility to attract workers to make sure that you can get out to that talent pool. And the only negative of this is it's going to be increased investment. But as I talked about, it's increased investment for the future that is going to ensure that you are sustainable as a company. So we are going to accept this and move on to our next decision, which is based on retention. So the first alternative, which we are going to reject, is to modify the rotation schedules, and this retention is based on the work-life balance for the employees. So this is making changes for the employees to show that there is, we are trying to change to ensure that they are happy with their work-life balance, but it's not going to meet employees' needs. It does not ensure work-life balance, as we're just going to modify the schedule without talking to them, ensuring what they want to see out of their schedule. And that's why we're going to go with alternative 2, which is to maintain the shift rotation as it was identified, but with accommodations. Kind of have it on a little bit of an ad hoc basis, as far as if the schedule is made 4 months in advance, we know who's going to be where. If someone needs a little bit of time off, 4 months in advance, we can make that change for them if it's suitable for that time, to ensure that they do have that work-life balance as needed. So this is more flexible for your employees. It ensures that work-life balance, and it ensures employee communication. You have to ensure the feedback with the employees, because with the retention, we want to make sure that the employees know exactly, that you know that you, the company, know exactly what the employees want, to make sure that you can keep them for the long term. So communication will be key. And this will be a little bit of an increased workload for the scheduling department, but as we talked about, and we'll talk about our implementation. As we're doing so far in advance, there won't be any rush for this. It's going to be very structured. So that's why we are going to accept this. So moving forward with our recommendation, we want to, with our recruitment side, accommodate and train to meet existing standards while also attracting for employees who do have those 3,000 hours. This is our sustainable backup to ensure that we do have enough staff for your company. And second, on the retention side, is to maintain shift rotation and let the employees accommodate. Let the employees have that accommodation if they need that extra day off, depending on their situation at that time. So now I'm going to pass it off to Amy and Taryn to take you through the implementation.
Thanks, Tyler. So in order to implement this recommendation, we set up our implementation plan in order of specific actionable items within a comprehensive timeline. So we're going to begin with recruitment in the short term. First thing we want to see your organization do is engage in workforce planning. This will be key to know what workforce resources you're going to need to be able to perform the contracts that you're already engaged in. How you can do this is by doing forecasting. Look at your current workforce, who you have in place, as well as what contracts are currently in place and upcoming, so you know what human resources you'll need to fill those positions. The next thing we want to look at is sourcing. You can do this internally in a few ways. We want to see you set up a referral program eventually, so that there's incentive for your current employees to refer old colleagues, old classmates that they may still be in touch with, in order to recruit them to your organization. Externally, we want to see you continue with Europe. This has been proven to be a successful area for you to recruit qualified candidates. And then we want to see you recruit targeted. You need mountain flying experience. Why not look at those geographic locations where those pilots will already have that type of experience that you need and recruit in those locations. Next thing we'd like to see you do is partner with schools. Currently, the hours are about 100 that they're being given for training. This isn't adequate, as you need about 3,000. Why not partner with these schools and say you'll hire their students if they can maybe increase the amount of flying hours that these students get. Meet in the middle, and this is a mutual benefit for both of you. As well as branding, as Taryn mentioned, you want to become that employer of choice. You can work with your marketing department in order to try to create a positive brand image of yourself that's consistent and will really attract the top talent that your company needs. So along with recruitment, we want to continue with assessing these candidates. As mentioned, you need really qualified candidates, so the assessment process is going to be key. We want it to be very objective. In this way, you can use tests, simulations, have people co-piloting with the current experienced pilots, and behavioral questions to find out different qualifications like their communication abilities. We also want to see you adjust this flight hour requirement. As we said, it's currently 3,000. This is a difficult requirement to meet, along with the mountain flying experience. So what we want to see you do is take an apprenticeship approach so that you can hire candidates that may have less than 3,000 hours, but you're ensuring that you're going to provide the training that they need to become up to the standards that you have. And this training will be in the form of those flight hours. What you'll do is sign a contract with these employees that when you bring them on and you're providing this investment in training to them, that they will stay with your company once they reach the 3,000 threshold. What you're really doing here is creating a learning organization. You're showing your employees that you want to invest in them and that you are continually looking towards training and development with these employees. So as I said, this is an investment, and then it will be tailored to your company's values, your safety objectives, and that mountain flying experience. In the medium term in recruitment, we really want to look at orientation. This also helps with retention. We want to see you look at the values of your organization and really share this with these new employees. As we mentioned before, safety is number one. As Terry mentioned, this really goes beyond profits. If you keep safety as top of mind, this ensures that you have your pilots as well as the customers' well-being in your best interest. And lastly, the mountain flying experience, as we mentioned. What we want to see is that every new employee hired has mandatory mountain flying training. This was identified as lacking most and is the most dangerous. What you can do is have your more experienced pilots within this competency training these new employees or orienting them. And you can do this in sort of a train-the-trainer way so that you know that these experienced pilots are training these new hires in the way that you want them to. So moving on to the first part of retention. As you mentioned, work-life balance is really important to your organization. What we want to see you do is have a formalized accommodation aspect in terms of the work schedule. What you need to do is set parameters. So what are the limits of when approval form can be sent in, let's say semi-annually, so that you're not having approval forms for schedule changes coming in all the time? And what procedures take place for requesting accommodations to the schedule? Can they work with colleagues to try to find something that's mutually beneficial in terms of the schedule? And as I mentioned, you'll have an objective request form that is clear, easy to fill out, and will require approval, and of course that the scheduling accommodations are feasible for your company's operations. So I'd now like to pass it off to Taryn to speak more about our retention.
Okay, so continuing on into long term, we did address workforce data as an issue. A lot of your employees are leaving the organization and it's unclear why, so we'd like to see you implement structured exit interviews. And we want to see you do this just so you can really have that information and gauge why it is that employees maybe are unhappy with the culture that you have or something that's going on beyond compensation, so you can accommodate that and make sure that they are retained within your organization moving forward. We'd also like to really see you garner employee satisfaction, and the way you can do this is through focus groups. So having your group of your employees come together and just on an annual basis, maybe even monthly, things like that, see how things are going in the organization, what it is they're happy with, if there's something with regards to the training that we're implementing they're not happy with, and making adjustments and things like that. So again, you have the open communication within your organization, and even going above that to have kind of recognition for years of service. So just creating that environment where employees want to stay with you now and in the years to come, and they're comfortable communicating with you, and you really establish that long-term relationship that you're looking for in your vision. After that, we will look to employee support. So a lot of your employees are coming over from Europe and they're leaving their family and some spouses behind. So one option for you is to implement a relocation program. We would recommend you do this based on a probationary period. So all employees will be eligible after they've met requirements, and our recommendation would be once they've met the hours of flying requirements. So if they come in with 2,000 hours and are able to work and stay with the company to meet that 3,000 hour flying time quota, then you can possibly help with relocation of family or even with the documentation process for legalization of immigration, things like that, so they can help their family here, and that's another barrier addressing with regards to work-life balance. And also stress management. Your employees do a lot of things at one time. They're really multitasking in the pilot type environment, so you can look to provide additional training above and beyond just to make sure that they're comfortable in the organization, they're not taking a leave because of everything they're having to juggle at a time with their work-life balance as well. So that's something we'd like to see you offer to your employees as an option if they are feeling a little bit overwhelmed with what they're doing in the workplace. So moving on to some more long-term. So what we're going to do is evaluate. So we've made a lot of changes to your recruitment and the process and the number of hours you have required for your pilots. So we want to see how this recruitment strategy is working. We're confident that we're going to be able to fill those 2 vacant positions within the first 4 months, but then we're going to want to look to see if we've been able to maintain that recruitment and ensure that you can meet your contracts and whatever vacancies that you have. And also turnover rates. So we talked about that salary and that $200,000. Were you able to use the focus groups to leverage employee satisfaction, reducing that turnover, and ensuring a long-term commitment for your organization? And the other thing we want to do is we also don't want to forget about your current employees. We've talked a lot about what you're going to do to bring on new employees, but we also acknowledge that there was a problem with your current employees and their bedside manner with your customers. And we definitely don't want to leave this ignored. So what we're looking to do is look more into your performance management system. We really want to see, do your employees lack training in customer service and how to effectively deal with those customers? Because we want to make sure, above all else, that your customers are happy with what's going on in the organization and they continue to hire and have contracts with you moving forward. So going on to risk mitigation. So with our implementation strategy, there are inherent risks that go along with this. So I'll just walk through a few of those with you. The first is the risk of lowering your standards. So from that 3,000 hour quota to the 2,000 hours. This we see as low. If you're concerned about this and you want to move it maybe up above 3,000 or you're not comfortable with lowering that much, you can move more to more stringent performance management. So you can really have your supervisors on your employees, making sure that things are going on, having required supervision of them during that time, and things like that. And the other is meeting your contract requirements. So if you aren't able to staff those positions, there's a medium risk that you wouldn't be able to do that. And if that's the case, you're having problems really staffing positions, you may need to look to limit your new contracts in the short term to ensure that you can really focus on your staffing and then garner new contracts in the long term. So just to wrap things up, so we identified the problem for you that you need to attract and attain qualified employees in your organization to be successful now and in the future. And with our implementation strategy, we are confident that you are going to have a strategic recruitment plan moving forward, that you are going to be able to ensure sustainable growth within your organization, and that you will have a satisfied workforce. And of course, most importantly, that your customers will be happy and safe in their travels wherever they go. And now we'd like to take the time to open the floor to any questions you may have.
Thank you. This concludes the presentation. The question is, and I'll begin.
I guess the accountant would be asking, what is it going to cost us for some of these recommendations that you identified?
That's a great question. That's something that we did talk about. There will be some costs as far as with the apprenticeships. We still have to hire some pilots, so there will be some additional costs that way. But that is justified because with the average salary of a pilot, it'll be less while they're considered like an apprentice until they have all of their hours. Also, setting up the actual strategy will cost some money as far as support staff, that sort of thing. We don't have a direct number as far as we need some of those numbers identified to calculate. But that were some things that we looked at. And also, as we're going to target Europe even more, there will be some recruitment costs as far as there as well. The number one is getting those two pilots within your vacancies within the next 4 months. So those costs are definitely justified as your contracts are sitting there, and as long as you do those contracts, you will have that revenue. So short-term costs for a long-term investment.
Okay, so if we accept your recommendation, how long after will you be able to tell me what's possible?
Like I said, we'd have to calculate some of those numbers, but where we see if we can get those employees in now, keep them retained within our organization, as there won't be the turnover costs as much. We're going to have those long-term contracts. We can keep all those contracts. Our guess is within a few years that investment will be able to come back. We would want to calculate some of those numbers.
So one of your recruiting strategies involved working with the marketing department to promote the company as an employer of choice. In theory, sounds like a great idea, but given the fact that the issues with finding qualified pilots is industry-wide, and you're going up against large companies, large competitors who have more resources than you when it comes to marketing, things like this. So what specifically would you recommend doing to set a training?
That's a great question. So there's a lot of cost-effective ways that you can use marketing in order to create an employer of choice image for yourself. So using electronic means like creating YouTube videos that create a great image of your company, really promoting the safety aspect of your company. So there's ways that you can create that large organization feel with a small budget in order to really make that impact really.
I think just to build on that, really as a small organization, you can really target the heartstrings of a family type organization and really getting to know your employees and garnering that relationship. Some of the bigger organizations may seem kind of disconnected, but you definitely have that work-life balance, family orientation, so you can use that and leverage that for sure.
You talked about the competitor industry. What consideration do you give about adjusting the compensation strategy?
We did talk about that. We were fairly comfortable with your compensation strategy. It seems like your employees indicated they were leaving for reasons other than that. So we talked about possibly doing some type of profit sharing, kind of making it more of an onerous environment. But right now we're more concerned about why employees are leaving more for not money as opposed to money. If that were the case, and we did the exit interviews and they just said, the other larger companies have better benefits, we could definitely look to that and maybe take that approach. But we are confident your compensation is where it needs to be right now, and you can focus more on other aspects of why employees are leaving.
You guys discuss any contingency in case it doesn't work. Try to also.
To clarify, a contingency if we're not able to hire the two candidates in either.
Well, I think it's more with the retention. Sort of like more with the retention. Maintain the shift rotation, accommodation, budgeting.
Absolutely. So the retention doesn't stand alone. The retention retention starts when you begin the recruitment process. So by ensuring a great candidate experience, ensuring that employees or candidates know what they're getting into, they provide training, the retention really begins there. So that paired with the actual strategies we've given for retention specifically, that would be a problem.
We did talk about a contingency plan a little bit, and that's where like employee satisfaction surveys come into play. We know where we want to go right now, and if that doesn't work, we can use employee feedback to see what's going to work for them as far as maintaining data to see really what is the real problem if this person does not fix it. But as Amy said, we are confident this will work for you.
No further questions.